are at another open. Yeah, this is something that I wrote. You don't think this will work like this, right? Yeah. Remove. Okay. Market is crashing down. Let's take a look at MNQ today. Yeah. I think I'll have to mark the liquidity zone below. I've not marked it yet. So if you look at it, it's way past. Market's heavily trending down, so the liquidity is quite far off. Oh, we don't have a really good area for us to actually take a trade from here, to be honest. This is one, but I don't expect price to push up heavily from there. We might actually have to look for a continuation trade if possible to the downside. Yeah, so if you look at the upside liquidity zones, this is a pretty good zone. If price sweeps this high, then we might have a chance for downside trade. My back is hurting a little bit today. Had a excessive workout in the gym. Think I pushed a little more than usual, and I paid the price. Small back strain. Is my internet a bit laggy today? I'm not sure. Okay, I'll just write it down here. Waiting for price to tap this high. Yeah, so we'll wait for price to tap this high, then consider a trade to the downside. Yeah, same story on MES as well, but we'll look for a trade on MNQ. Yeah, since price is moving slow, I think we can dive into a bit of psychology today. I've set up uh, a writing pad for today's session. Let me see if it comes to use. Yeah, okay, let's see. Yeah, so what do I want to talk about? So I've been putting out videos on all these cognitive functions like introverted thinking, extroverted feeling, and other things. But I've not provided a comprehensive picture of what are the different kinds of functions and what role does it play. So most people would have already done this test as part of your studies or just a fun activity sometime in your life, but I'm not 100% sure. But many people have already done this test. If not, I think you can find this test on 16personalities .com. It's a website. So in this particular website, you can actually see this particular personality type test. It's called MBTI, an MBTI test. So MBTI stands for Myers-Briggs Type Indicator. So it's a test developed by Myers and Briggs, but then it's based on Carl Jung's psychological archetypes. So Carl Jung has described 16 cognitive functions based on which MBTI has categorized people into 16 types, 16 personality types. And for the 16 personality types, they've used Carl Jung's cognitive function theory basically. So the real root or most of the actual stuff is in cognitive functions. It's based on these cognitive function that 16 personalities have been formed in MBTI. So I will just explain you how these cognitive functions play a role. So there are eight of these cognitive functions. So I will just list it down. I'll start with TE, T and a small e. This stands for extroverted thinking. Then you have TI. There's no particular order, but I'm just putting it as a list. This stands for introverted thinking. Then you have, let me go ahead with SE. This is extroverted sensing. Then you have SI, introverted sensing. So that those are like four functions. If you come down, we have another set of four. This is not a set actually, to be honest. It's all just eight different functions. So then you have any. Sorry, let me just erase it. Yeah, I will make a big list. Yeah, any is extroverted intuition. Then you have FE, so we'll put NI in the same order. Introverted intuition. Then you have FE, extroverted feeling. FI, that is introverted feeling. Yeah, so I think I got the spelling wrong. Yeah, so these are the eight cognitive functions. It starts from T until FI. So each type has four main functions in their stack. So it's a combination of four among these functions that determines the personality type. For example, let's take ESFJ. This is one of the personality types among the 16 personality types. The top four functions of this particular personality type is number one is FE, extroverted feeling. Second one in their stack is SI, introverted sensing. Third function is NE, that is extroverted intuition. Fourth function is TI, introverted thinking. So these are the four functions of ESFJ. Now, so it's actually a combination of four functions at the top. I mean, so to be honest, there are eight functions, but then the last four are called the shadow side, and the first four is called uh, the major stack. Okay, the main stack of a particular type. So for an ESFJ, the top four functions are actually FE, SI, NE, and TI. Now, if you dive deep into what each of these functions are, it's going to get quite fascinating. And then you're going to be able to understand why ESFJs are the way they are. So, learning this is more important, to be honest, than learning, just the 16 types. So, once you understand the cognitive functions in depth, you will actually realize why it makes sense, why it's not pseudoscientific, and why it has real value to provide in our lives. Yeah. Now, there's a superficial way of typing people as well. That is, for example, we'll take the same ESFJ example and I will explain you this. Okay, let's bring him down. Okay, let's say there's an ESFJ. If you take each letter for what it actually is, that is E for extroversion, S for sensing, F for feeling, and J for judging. Some people type based on these four letters. So, how would they describe it then? They would say an ESFJ is a person who's extroverted in general. S. So they use their sensing function more than intuition. I know it might, if you're new to it, it might be a bit complicated for you, but yeah, there might be another day where I might be explaining it in detail, what sensing is versus intuition. Then they are more feeling than thinking. So they make most of their decisions based on their feeling or emotion rather than thinking through logically. So it's a spectrum. It's not that they only make emotional decisions. It's that most of their decisions are based on their feeling and not based on logic. Okay, next is judging. So judging doesn't mean that they judge people. It's quite different. So in this context, what judging means is they are more organized. They plan and make decisions rather than improvising in the moment. So what's an opposite or the other side of judging is actually prospecting or perceiving. Those kind of people actually do not plan ahead. They're not more organized. They wait for the moment and then adapt on the fly. Those are the other side of this judging. So some people type like this. You can get somewhat an accurate type based on this, but this can also lead you to gross, grossly wrong typing as well because this is not the actual root uh, factors that determine a person's type. So you can get a good probability of people right, and then the other would be astonishingly completely wrong. So that is why this is not the ideal way to type. For typing, we should always use, to understand somebody's personality type, we should always use cognitive functions. So if you look at a person and see that their top function is extroverted feeling, that is FE, you have a clue. Okay, which all are the types that have FE as the top function? There are only two types. One is ESFJ and you have ENFJ. So only two types have FE as their top function. So if you're able to identify, okay, this person has extroverted feeling as their top function, then you can narrow them down to basically two types. And for an ESFJ, their second function is SI. So if you have FE and then SI, for sure that person has to be an ESFJ. Instead, if it's NE, it'll go to NFJ. But let's ignore that. If it's FE plus SI in the first two functions, then that person has to be an ESFJ. That is how you type. You look at them and you see, okay, what is their top function? If it's FE, if it's extroverted feeling, then you narrow down them to two types. Then the second function will reveal you then you can look for third function if you want. If you see inferior any, that's another way to say they are ESFJ. If you see fourth, in the fourth position, if you see TI, that's a bit difficult to spot. But if you can spot it, then because the fourth function is actually very invisible, it's not that visible, it's pretty weak for them. So the top function is always the strongest. Then comes the second function. Third function is called a child function because it's only as good as a 10-year-old's top function. So that's why it's called weak. Fourth is the inferior function. It's too low on the spectrum. Yeah, fourth for them is TI. This is what makes up an ESFJ. So this is how you should type. Now coming to the functions, I can actually explain all of these functions, but then I think probably that should be done in some other time because it's going to take a lot of time going through each of these functions. But to give a quick summary of it, what TE values is actually external logic. So, sorry, give me a second. Yeah, yeah. So what TE values is objective. Let me put it. Let me use the right word. Objective logic. That is verifiable, externally verifiable facts, reports, studies. That's what they value the most. So types who are high on T, they always use this externally objectified or objective logic a lot. TE is subjective logic. See, this is a small, uh, I cannot explain in depth in a short time period, so I'm not gonna explain a lot. This might feel like, well, how can logic be subjective? And how can it be true if it's subjective? It should be objective, right? But the thing is, TI types don't look at just facts or studies. It needs to make sense to their, reasoning chain. It should have a proper cause and effect in their brain. So that making sense is the whole thing about TI, introverted thinking. Next is SE. SE basically is a way of taking in information from the environment through their five senses, through the senses that we have got. So these kind of people who are top or who has SE as their top function usually prioritize their senses and the concrete information that they receive from the world around them through their senses. So basically, uh, I would say sensory information is their top way of living life. They receive that information from the sensory environment and adapt. SI. SI is very similar to SE in a way, but sorry, yeah. The difference is that SE reacts to the sensory information of the present, what is right in front of them. What SI does is always refer to the information from the past, the sensory information that they've stored in their brain from their past history, from their experiences. So I would write past sensory memory. So these guys would have really good concrete memory of past occurrences and they can recall it really well. Any is extroverted intuition. I think I've explained extroverted intuition previously in this channel, but I will explain it again. It's nothing but simulating possibilities. So it's like a tree branching out. You can simulate multiple possibilities through your intuitive brain, your abstract brain. Yeah. Ni is the opposite of any. If you picture it like a trees branching out, Ni is converging multiple factors and ideas and clues into one coherent vision. So you can say uh, ideas or factors converging to vision. Fe is nothing but group harmony. That is what is important for them. Extroverted feeling. So this is like the emotion is outward. It's shown to the people around you or the environment outside yourself. So, uh, yeah, let me just write it properly. You need the environment around you to be harmonious. The people around you to be happy, content. So what these guys do is they prioritize the harmony among the group or the people around them at the highest, not within them. Now, what FI is the opposite of that, where somebody evaluates their values, their emotions at the top. So for these people, their mental happiness or peace is the top priority rather than group harmony. So it's like uh, own values and emotions. That's their top priority. So that was a quick explanation of the uh, eight cognitive functions. That's just, I explained it using one word so that you can pick it up easily. But then, of course, there is so much to it. It's more deep than this. But then that was the fastest way to explain it. But it's fascinating once you understand what these functions are and then learn about it. Yeah, just give me a second for a moment. ഹലോ ചേച്ചൂടാ പറയടാ പറയടാ കഴിച്ചു കഴിഞ്ഞോ എന്നാ നീ ഒരു ഓട്ടോ ബുക്ക് ചെയ്തിങ്ങ് പോരെ ആ പോരെ ആ ബുക്ക് ചെയ്തോ Yeah, so that was a quick explanation. Now, if you combine four of these in different orders, you get each of the types. That's what fascinating about it. But certain functions, no, the interesting fact is that learning this would actually help you to understand the people around you and yourself. You will understand why do you act the way you do? Why do you think the way you do? So everything will become clear to you once you understand how these functions work. Yeah. Not sure if you've been to the 16personalities.com website. Otherwise, it's a short way to find out what your type is. This is the website, 16personalities.com. It's a fast way to understand what your type is. But this is all also not foolproof. Not guaranteed that you will obviously get your type because using cognitive functions is the best way to type. But this is a quick hack. By answering a few questions, you'll be able to understand what kind of a personality you are. But I would always advise to study it and use these functions to type yourself. But always, an easier starting point is necessary, right? So I would recommend this website as an easier starting point. Yeah, that was what I had to talk about on MBTI. Probably in another session, we'll dive deep into it and deep into all the cognitive functions. But that is it for now. And we'll switch back to trading and see where the market is. I don't think it would have moved much. Yeah, market is slowly pulling up. Not much movement there. Yeah, we have time until 3. We take trades until 3 p.m. Based on what I see here, I don't think price is going to move up until another 1 hour, let's say. So what I'll do is I'll stop the stream and I'll let you know if I take a trade and then update the status tomorrow. Okay.